Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Stratton Horres, and I'm going to do a presentation on bucket lists, the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Wilson Elser. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm the third one, so I want to get a little energy and a little positive feedback going. We're going to go around the world in about 15 minutes. Jill, time me. Give me a 15-minute heads up, okay? Fantastic, okay. That is, of course, the Colosseum in Rome. How many people have been to the Colosseum in Rome? Please raise your hand. Oh, wow, it's fantastic. How many have been more than once? Fantastic. We are going to go until we can't go anymore. This is about bucket lists, but it's not about death. It's about life. And instead of calling it a bucket list, let's call it a life list. Most of us in this room have hopefully many, many, many years to go. Some of us, not so much. So whether it's a few years or many years, it's a life list. For those of us who have not as much time, it may be more of a bucket list, but that's just a matter of semantics. So how do we become a buckaroo? Well, what is a buckaroo? A buckaroo is someone who has a list, a bucket list. It doesn't have to be a written list. It can be a mental list. And I guarantee you, everybody here has a mental list of some things they want to do and places they want to go. And I'm here to tell you, we are not just what we do. We are not just lawyers and partners and of counsel in one of the greatest or largest, best law firms in the world. We are individuals. We have lives. We have interests. We have hobbies. We have things that we really love to do outside of the law. Raise your hand if that defines you, that you have other things to do besides practice law. There's golf. I know a lot of folks in the room play golf. I know there's sailors. I know there are folks that fly airplanes and other great things. So we have so much more than what we do. The firm has really come full circle. I know Ricky will remember a time when during Glenn Feinberg's presentations, I was a subject of a series of roasts because of my interest in Egypt, in Egyptology and traveling. Rob remembers, he's laughing. And now here we are, I'm doing a TED Talk on exactly that. What a wonderful thing that we have come such full circle and that the firm welcomes our outside interests and recognizes that we have other things to do besides practice law. Isn't that a wonderful thing? I think it is. And the firm recognizes it, embraces it, and puts it right out there and lets us get up and talk about those things. You heard Tom Tobin this morning. These TED Talks are about anything but law. They wouldn't even let people talk about business or client generation or war stories or anything like that. This is about us. This is about what makes us passionate. So what is a bucket list? Well, it comes from, of course, the phrase to kick the bucket, which does describe generally when somebody passes away. It's literally a list of things that you want to do before you kick the bucket. It's activities, experiences, places, and things. How many people in this room have seen the film The Bucket List? Excellent. If you haven't, see it. If you have, see it again. Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman play two of the most interesting characters. And they played a lot of interesting characters, Larry, over the time. So 2007 comedy, drama, movie, directed by Rob Reiner. And it talks about the two men discovering themselves late in life and their interest. And they come together out of nowhere by happenstance, and they recognize that they're going to become partners on a worldwide journey to see those things which they've not seen. Carter Chambers, Morgan Freeman's character, in a conversation with Jack Nicholson's character, says, you know, the ancient Egyptians had a beautiful belief about death. When their souls go to the entrance of heaven, the guards ask 2 questions. And their answers determined whether or not they pass through to heaven. Question 1, have you found joy in your life? And I'm asking you to mentally process that question right now and answer it internally. Have you found joy in your life? And the second question, which I love, have you in your life brought joy to others? We have a right to be happy. We have a right to have joy. And more importantly, we should share that joy with others. Your partners, your friends, your loved ones, your relatives, whoever it might be, life should be joyful. So where do we start to create our own bucket list? It starts with thinking. Thinking about what makes you passionate. Being on a sailboat, sailing to Bermuda, flying an airplane, walking on the beach, going to the top of a mountain, watching a sunrise or a sunset, feeling the wind in your face on a motorcycle. Whatever makes you happy, think about it and write it down. Write it down. What is your bliss? Who in this room has heard of Joseph Campbell? Please raise your hand. If you haven't heard of Joseph Campbell, please write that name down. And you have to read the book, The Power of Myth. It will change your life. It changed mine. Joseph Campbell, believe it or not, was responsible for Star Wars. He was a mythologist. He was able to examine history in the context of myth to try to explain that which is the unexplainable. And ancient cultures use myths to explain the spirituality, the creation stories, the things that are spiritual in a sense, things that cannot be put into words easily. So myths became a part of that. Joseph Campbell's mantra was, follow your bliss. Follow what makes you supremely happy. Real quick story by Joseph Campbell. Again, a life-changing story. People would come up to Joseph Campbell late in their lives, chairman of the IBMs and major companies around the world, and they would say, Joe, I spent my whole life climbing the corporate ladder, rung by rung, and I made it to the very top of that ladder, only to find when I did, I'm unhappy, I'm unfulfilled, I'm unsatisfied, and I can't believe it. I spent all that time doing that. Why am I so unhappy? And he would say, Bill or Jane, it's simple. You spent your life climbing that wall, but you put your wall against the wrong wall to begin with. Only when you got to the top did you realize what you had done. But it's not too late to put that ladder against the right wall and start climbing again. So think about your bucket list. Think about what moves you, what you are passionate about. It is your bliss, and follow it. If you have a piece of paper, or if you have a cell phone, you want to write this down on an email to yourself, the phrase, before I die, I want to, fill it in. This is where you start. Before I die, I want to, ... Stephen Colbert, ... Those of you who've seen Stephen Colbert's monologue know what that means. Finish that phrase. Finish that sentence. This is where you start. Become a buckaroo. Again, someone who has a bucket list. Share your list with your friends and family. Find a bucker. That's a bucker, not the B, bucker. And a bucker is someone that supports a buckaroo. Find someone that you can share your list with, get feedback, and hopefully will help you achieve the items on your bucket list. It's not a one-time deal. Your bucket list should be expanded. It should be Write it out in pencil if you have to and erase things and cross them out as you go through. Expand your bucket list, because as you grow older, more experiences will come in and it will change, and people will suggest things to you. You will go places and you will add to them and you'll check them off, the ones that you have done. This is a picture I took just a month ago. We're going in a ship. We're going into Montenegro, the harbor of Kotor. And the sun was shining through that gap in the mountains, and it was just absolutely stunningly beautiful. That is my bliss. Being in places like that, being able to see the beauty of nature and being around it and immersing myself in it and capturing it on film. Because I love to take pictures. Anybody who knows me knows that I love to take pictures. Lots of pictures. Never been really good at it until now, because I'm determined, this is on my list, I'm going to learn how to be a photographer. I may never be a professional photographer, but by gosh, I'm going to get better at it and really put myself to test of trying to do it. That's a picture I took at Dubrovnik. I can see why Game of Thrones is filmed in Dubrovnik. The light is extraordinary. It is so beautiful. In this particular case, this was a sunset, and this ship, I almost went back and I thought, oh my gosh, it looks like a galleon going into port in the 1700s. You just close your mind, close your eyes, and visualize that. Life is a trip. Make it a trip and go places and do things. Don't stay in one place. Keep going. Stay on the move. Gather experiences, because at the end of the day, experiences are what we're going to remember and want to remember and relive in our minds over and over and over. There's so many tools to help. There is a bucketlist.org website. It's fantastic. Check it out. There's a bucketlist.net. They're fantastic. They're networks. All the ideas and things that people are going, thousands and thousands of people are on the internet sharing their experiences, giving you ideas about things you may want to do too. You may not have thought about it. But when you get on and you become a part of that network, become a buckaroo, you're attached to all the buckers, and then you can start really, really living life in a way that you probably never thought possible. And my goodness, I want you to pass these around. 1,000 places to see before you die. National Geographic expeditions and trips all around the world. Pass those around. A 1,000 ultimate sites. Another 1,000 places in the USA and Canada to see before you die. My favorite, World Heritage Sites. How many people know what a World Heritage Site is? There's about 1,100 in the world. And these are the icons. These are the places that we all read about and look at book pictures and so forth. Instead of the Madonna sex book on the coffee table that Larry was talking about, usually there are books about pictures of places. I don't know what Larry's got on his table, but just kidding.
Oh, you have to follow your own list.
Whatever it happens to be. We all have a different list. And then there's some really fascinating books, interesting, quirky kind of books that will take you to places that you really can't believe, like the Atlas Obscura. It's a great book. It's fun just to read. I was in the Omani fjords in Oman not long ago. There was a little island out there, just a nondescript island called Telegraph Island, that in the 1800s, the British had a telegraph station on. Telegraph Island. And it was such a desolate and bleak place, the people that were stationed on that island went insane because they were there for so long and there was nothing to do. Nothing to do on that island except there's a telegraph station, a British telegraph station. And the phrase, around the bend, was coined because the people that were going to Telegraph Island to work had to go around the bend of the fjords to get to the island. And that phrase, around the bend, came to be associated with going crazy having nothing to do for months at a time. Thank you. For months at a time. Real quickly, I asked some friends to come up with their own bucket list. Timmy Newsom, running back for the Cowboys from 1980 to 1989. His bucket list: traveled to China to see the Great Wall, traveled to Egypt to see the Great Pyramids, being named to the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. Again, it doesn't have to be a place, it can be a thing, a recognition. Live long enough to see my son marry and have children. Cecilia Boone, co-founder of the Container Store. Never miss an opportunity to travel with friends or play with grandchildren. And if you can find a friend that has a private plane that loves to do that, that's really helpful. They will take you with them to go see places. Visit all 50 states. She has one to go on Hawaii. I suggested we take the plane and we all go to Hawaii. And I think she's going to take me up on that. Spend at least a month, preferably two, in the American West. Learn about the Native American culture. Basically live in that open country. Spend at least a month in New York City and to see the Aurora Borealis. Robert Hart, General Counsel of the Cuban companies. Larry and I know Robert very well. He wants to cruise around Italy and Greece. He loves to ride bikes. He wants to ride bikes around the world in Europe, Vietnam, Pacific. Be an ambassador to Denmark, where he once studied. Live in northern Vermont for a few months on a farm near Canadian border. That's pretty specific. That's somebody that's really focused on their bucket list. Buy a second home somewhere when I go into semi-retirement, and a lovely one, a safari in Africa. Carter Keith, married to one of our partners, Jill Keith, I think, yes. CEO of 31,000 Feet, who represents Shaq in commercials, Gold Bond commercials. His bucket list, lovely. Walk my daughter down the aisle, wrong aisle, spelled wrong. Hold my grandchild. Tell Carter that. Great thought. For me, it's the relationships in my life that are more important than experiences. Beautiful, beautiful thought. Steve Prince, a friend that was introduced to me by Larry, movie producer, actor. Have a beer with Obama, perform on Broadway, assuming he's still acting, direct a film again, take his daughter and his wife to Norway, specifically to Stavanger, to show them his ancestral home. Again, thought, he's thinking about these things. Holly Reed, who runs Texas Central Partners, that's now in the process of doing the Texas Bullet Train between Dallas and Houston. She wants to take her father and brother to a Monday night football game at Lambeau Field. Is Bill Cott in here? Hike the Inca Trail, ride a train across Mexico and the Copper Canyon, attend the U.S. Open, French Open in Wimbledon with her mother, and find and meet my long-lost German family and introduce them to my mother. Beautiful stuff, just beautiful. My bucket list, real quickly, these are my checks. Check them off. Istanbul, Sistine Chapel, sunrise at Mount Sinai, Petra, Delphi, Venice, The Last Supper by Da Vinci, the Inca Trail in Machu Picchu. And if you haven't been to Machu Picchu, that is an absolute must, absolute must. If you can hike the Inca Trail, which I can't do now, it would kill me. 4 days at great heights, believe me. But if you can do it, it'll be one of the best things in your life. Nazca Lines, very mysterious in southern Peru. Luxor, the Temple of Man in Egypt. Walking the walls of Dubrovnik, which I was fortunate just to be able to do. You can walk the outer walls of Dubrovnik. It is a fantastic experience, absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. Cruising the Nile, it's still possible. You can still cruise the Nile. I heard someone told me that Egypt is trying to get the Olympics to Egypt. I don't see how that's possible these days, but I hear they're really trying to do that. And I hope Egypt does get opened up again. Real quick, my bucket list, my to-be checklist, and when I have a long one, the Taj Mahal, Angkor Wat, Cambodia, the rock churches of Ethiopia, Easter Island, Patagonia, Chile, African safari also, Morocco, the Great Wall in China, the Tibet, Bitola Palace, Galapagos Islands, and Australia. I have a long list still to check off. I have a habit of going back to the same places again and again and again instead of going to new places all the time. I have worn this shirt almost everywhere I've been in the world. You only need one shirt. I can promise you that. You only need one. Take two. Take two, but you only need one. So this is to be continued, and this is the Gate of the Sun looking down on Machu Picchu. One last thing. For those of us that really want to see it all at one time, One of my favorite things to read is a National Geographic Around the World in a Private Jet. If you have $80,000 lying around, 80,000, 80,000, in 21 days you can get on a jet with a few other people. They will take you all around the world to the greatest places at one time. Now, if you go with somebody, that's another 80,000. So find a bucker or someone that hopefully can afford it too. And if you're husband and wife, well, that's 160,000. But you get to see it all at one time. So anyway, follow your bliss, be happy, and then share that joy with somebody else. Thank you all.